Welcome back to the House of Wisdom. In the last episode, we witnessed the graveyard of the Roman field army at Ajnadain. We saw Khalid bin Al-Waleed outmaneuver the Byzantine war machine, while the Black Knight, Dirar bin al-Azwar, shattered their psychological defenses. The imperial army of Rome was crushed, leaving thousands dead upon the plains. The victory was absolute, and the gateway to the heart of Syria was thrown wide open. But defeating an army in the field is one thing. Breaking the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world is another. The wind sweeping through the Ghouta oasis carries the scent of iron, dust, and decay. It is August 634. The Muslim army stands before the towering walls of Damascus. These walls are massive, impenetrable, and defended by a desperate Roman garrison, commanded by Thomas, a resolute general and son-in-law of the Emperor Heraclius. Khalid bin Al-Waleed commands the siege from the east gate. Abu Ubaidah, the gentle and pious trusted one of the Ummah, commands the west gate. They are two different commanders, with two entirely different philosophies of war. Khalid views war as an absolute clash of wills that ends only in total submission or destruction. Inside the city, they know this. They know that if they surrender to Abu Ubaidah, they will be treated with mercy. But Abu Ubaidah is not the supreme commander. Khalid is. And Khalid is not a man who waits for his enemies to decide their own fate. The siege drags on for weeks. It is a grueling, bitter stalemate. To understand why Khalid bin Al-Waleed is growing relentlessly impatient at the East Gate, and to understand why he is willing to risk everything on a treacherous night raid, you must look at the psychological and human toll in the trenches. You must look at the story of Aban bin Saeed. Aban is a Muslim warrior who has just been married within the military camp. The henna on his bride's hands is barely dry. The joy of their union is immediately overshadowed by the looming shadow of the Great Wall. Aban leaves his bride's tent and takes his position at the front lines, staring up the imposing stone defenses. Upon the Roman battlements stands a priest. He serves as a psychological weapon for the defenders, holding a massive cross high above the parapets, chanting loudly and inciting the Roman archers to rain death upon the Arabs below. The Romans are fighting for their survival, and they are using poisoned arrows, a weapon designed to inflict maximum terror and suffering. A poisoned shaft cuts through the dry Syrian air. It strikes Aban bin Saeed. The venom works with terrifying speed. He falls, and within hours, the poison courses through his veins, taking his life. He dies a martyr in the shadow of Damascus, his blood soaking the earth. When the news of his death reaches his young bride in the camp, the soldiers expect weeping. They expect the traditional tearing of clothes and the loud wailing of a widow in despair. But this is the army of the Rashidun. She is a woman of Arabia, her spirit forged in the harsh, unforgiving environment of the desert and tempered by an absolute, unshakable faith. She does not shed a single tear. She calmly walks to her husband's lifeless body. She kneels down, not to mourn, but to unbuckle his quiver. She takes up his bow. She marches directly to the front line, her face a mask of cold resolve. She stalks the Roman battlements with the precision of a desert predator. Her eyes scan the towering walls of Damascus until she spots her target, the Roman priest, still standing high above, still holding his massive cross, still inciting the defenders to fire. She plants her feet. She fits an arrow to the string and draws it back to her cheek, perfectly steady even with the chaos of the siege around her. She holds her breath. The arrow flies. It drives straight through the Roman priest's breast. The impact throws him backward, and the man, along with his heavy cross, comes tumbling down from the high walls, crashing at the foot of the fortifications. The women of this army are just as lethal, just as committed as the men. But individual acts of staggering heroism and vengeance cannot bring down 20-foot-thick walls. Every day the Muslims wait outside Damascus, more men like Aban die. Every day, more brides become widows. Khalid bin Al-Waleed watches this attrition. He knows that a passive siege will slowly bleed his army dry. The human cost is becoming too high, and the stalemate must be broken. Pause here and put yourself in the sandals of the supreme commander. When a siege turns into a slow, toxic grinder of attrition, taking the lives of your best men, do you owe it to your troops to launch a highly dangerous, bloody breach, or do you maintain the blockade and wait for starvation to force a surrender? Let me know your tactical command decision in the comments below. Now, let us witness how Khalid shatters the stalemate. Deep in the night, a shadow lowers itself from the walls of Damascus on a rope. It is a Greek inhabitant of the city named Jonah. He sneaks through the Muslim sentries and demands to see Khalid. Jonah is a man driven mad by despair. The patriarch of Damascus had recently celebrated Jonah's marriage to his bride, but because of the siege, the consummation of the marriage has been forbidden. Jonah cannot be with the woman he loves. Standing before the sword of Allah, Jonah makes an offer of high treason. He tells Khalid that tonight is a great festival in the city. The Roman sentries are drunk and the walls are unguarded. He will show Khalid exactly how to breach the east gate, but on one condition. When the city falls, Khalid must guarantee the safety of Jonah's bride. As a commander, do you trust a man who betrays his own people for a personal obsession, or do you take the risk because the strategic prize is simply too great? Lock in your decision. Khalid does not hesitate. He accepts the deal. In the pitch blackness of the night, Khalid gathers his most elite operatives, including the one-man army Khalid bin Umar and the fierce warrior Mazur bin Adi. They approach the moat. They use inflated water skins to swim silently across the dark water. Reaching the base of the wall, they throw lassos with grappling hooks over the battlements. In total silence, Khalid, Kaka, and Mazur climb the sheer stone face hand over hand. They reach the top. Jonah was right. The guards are either asleep or intoxicated. The Muslim commandos descend into the city, slaughtering the guards at the gate and shattering the heavy iron locks with their swords. The heavy wooden doors of the east gate swing open. With the battle cry of Allahu Akbar, the army of Iraq pours into Damascus like a tidal wave. But as Khalid storms through the eastern sector of the city, putting the defenders to the sword and seizing property by force, a completely different scene is unfolding at the west gate. The Romans, terrified by the sounds of the breach at the east gate, rush to Abu Ubaidah. They throw open the Jabiyah gate and beg for a peace treaty. Abu Ubaidah, true to his nature, accepts. He signs a guarantee of safety for the citizens, their wealth, and their churches. He enters the city peacefully, flanked by Roman bishops and priests. The two Muslim armies collide in the center of Damascus, right at the Church of Mary. This is one of the most incredible standoffs in military history. Khalid marches forward with a dripping sword, surrounded by battle-hardened veterans. Abu Ubaidah walks forward holding a piece of parchment, flanked by the enemy. Khalid is furious. He shouts, "What peace? I have captured the city by force. Our swords are red with their blood, and we have taken spoils and slaves." Khalid argues that Abu Ubaidah has no authority to guarantee peace without his direct orders as the supreme commander. Abu Ubaidah counters, insisting that he has given them the guarantee of peace in the name of Allah, and breaking pacts is not a trait of the Muslims. The tension escalates to a dangerous peak. Some of Khalid's soldiers raise their swords to execute the Romans, forcing Abu Ubaidah to rush past Khalid and command the men to halt. Khalid ultimately handles the clash by subordinating his anger to strategic military logic. the other 3 Muslim corps commanders intervene. They advise Khalid that breaking a Muslim guarantee of safety would be a political disaster. If word spreads that Muslims slaughter those they promise to protect, no other city in Syria will ever surrender peacefully. Because Khalid's emotions never interfere with his reason, he recognizes the tactical wisdom of their argument and agrees to honor Abu Ubaidah's peace treaty. However, Khalid initially refuses to extend this peace to the Roman commanders Thomas and Harbiz, wishing to execute them. Abu Ubaidah defends them as the very first individuals to enter his protection, prompting Khalid to yield so that his colleague's word remains unbroken. Khalid then negotiates the final terms of their exile, granting the Romans a 3-day head start, but strictly limiting them to carrying only food for the journey and 1 weapon per man.
To finalize the resolution, Khalid personally signs the pact that guarantees the people of Damascus safety for their lives, properties, and churches in exchange for paying the jizya tax. Hit the like button if you think Abu Ubaidah made the right political call, even if it frustrated the military vanguard. Thomas believes he has escaped. He leaves the city with a massive convoy of wealth, taking thousands of refugees with him. Among them is Jonah's wife, who, utterly disgusted by her husband's treason, refuses to stay with him and chooses exile with the Romans. But Khalid is a man who leaves no loose ends. The treaty signed by Abu Ubaidah guarantees the safety of the Roman convoy for exactly 3 days. Khalid waits. He counts the hours. The moment the 3-day truce expires, he unleashes his elite mobile guard. They're dressed as local Christian Arabs to avoid detection by Roman outposts. Jonah, desperate to reclaim his wife, acts as their guide, knowing the secret paths that will allow the fast-moving cavalry to overtake the slow, heavily burdened Roman convoy. They ride at breakneck speed, catching the Roman column in a valley near Antioch known as the Meadow of Brigade. The Muslim cavalry strikes like a thunderbolt. In the ensuing slaughter, Thomas is killed. In the immense wealth of the convoy, including 300 bales of imperial brocade, is captured. But for Jonah, the victory is ashes. His wife, seeing the Muslims approach and knowing she will be handed over to the traitor, draws a dagger and takes her own life. Jonah's betrayal cost him his city, his honor, and finally, his love. Damascus is secured. The north is open. But while Khalid is rewriting the map of the world, a lone rider from Medina slips into the Muslim camp. He carries a letter. The great Caliph Abu Bakr has died. Omar bin al-Khattab is now the ruler of the faithful. Khalid and Omar have a complex history, from their childhood wrestling matches where Khalid broke Omar's leg to their bitter disputes over Khalid's ruthless tactics during the Rida Wars. Omar has always distrusted Khalid's immense power and autonomy. Omar's very first act as caliph is to draft a letter of dismissal. He strips Khalid of his supreme command and hands it to Abu Ubaidah. When the letter arrives, the Siege of Damascus is still underway. Abu Ubaidah reads the letter, but his humility and his strategic mind take over. He looks at Khalid, commanding the army with unmatched brilliance, and he folds the letter away. He conceals it. He allows the sacked general to win the war. It is only after the conquest is complete that Khalid learns the truth. He reads the decree. The greatest undefeated general in human history has been fired at the absolute zenith of his glory. If this were a Roman or a Persian general, there would be a civil war. He would march his loyal, battle-hardened legions back to the capital and seize the throne. What does Khalid do? He walks to Abu Ubaidah. He does not draw his sword. He asks, "Why did you conceal this from me? May Allah have mercy upon you." Abu Ubaidah replies gently, "I did not wish to weaken your authority while you were engaged with the enemy." Khalid bows his head. He says, "Praise be to Allah who decreed death upon Abu Bakr, who was more beloved to me than Omar. Praise be to Allah who gave authority to Omar, who was less beloved to me than Abu Bakr, and compelled me to love him." He steps down.
The sword of Allah becomes a regular soldier in the ranks of Abu Ubaidah's army. It is a testament to a discipline that transcends ego, a submission to the state that is rarer than any victory on the battlefield. If you were in Khalid's boots, commanding an invincible army, could you have handed over power so peacefully simply because a piece of paper commanded it? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you are captivated by the true history of these titans, make sure to subscribe to the House of Wisdom and share this video to keep their legacy alive. Khalid may no longer be the supreme commander, but the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius is not finished. He is gathering a storm of unprecedented magnitude. To the north, a colossal army of Romans is marching to sweep the Muslims into the sea. The stage is set for the greatest and most consequential battle of the ancient world. Next time on the House of Wisdom, the Battle of Yarmouk and the Day of Lost Eyes.